Okay, so yes, good evening and welcome to another session from the Android development track. Okay, so last time rather, we actually looked at, a brief dive into variables, and we did a little bit of coding, playing around with random numbers. So, and I remember telling us we're actually going to build an application to that. So that is what we're going to be doing tonight. Okay, so we have a lot to actually cover tonight. So let's just get right on it. If you have questions, please just raise your hand, or you can ask it on the chat. I'll do my best to reach out and give you an answer. Okay, so let's start. First of all, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so you can see my Android Studio is already up. I've already created a project. I called it Dice Roll. I believe you all already know how to play. So please mute your mic. Who is that? Please mute your mic. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead. Okay, so today we're actually going to be building an application to test what we have actually done, the code we have actually written. Let's see how we can actually apply that to our application. So let's just get started with that. So I'm going to go to my activity_main. So this is where you actually design your application. Okay, this is where you design everything. So currently we have just a constraint layout. We have a text view. So I'm just going to do a bit of a recap, okay, as we move on, just to carry people along. So, but basically we're going to be adding a button, okay? We're going to be adding a button. So a button is a view, okay? It just, informs the user, okay, that look, you can actually perform an action. It's actually used to perform an action. But of course, you can actually use a text view to perform an action, but a button is really more preferable because of it actually speaks action more than a text view, but any view actually can be clickable. So we already have a text view, we have a constraint layout, okay? Now we said something about views and view groups, okay? The text view and the button that we're going to add, okay, they are views within a constraint layout, okay? And our constraint layout is a view group because in this context, our constraint layout is going to be holding our text view and is also going to be holding our buttons. Now, another thing to note is this: when you have views within a view group, okay, the views are considered children of the parent view group. Okay, so in this case, our text view, okay, is a parent to the constraint layout. Okay, so I had to drop this because at some point I'm going to be calling the constraint layout parent. So you get to understand that it is actually the view group that is housing other views within it. Okay, so I'm going to add a button. So you can just do that by dragging this button. So I'm going to drag it down here below the text view. Okay. And then, okay, so we understand, we already know how to constrain. We already have a red warning here. So now I want to constrain this to the bottom of the text view. So I'll just drag it to the bottom of the text view. Now you can actually see it shows two options. Do I want to constrain it to the top of the text view, or from that is the top of the button to the text view top, or the top of the button to the bottom view? So I think I would want to do to the bottom. Okay, so I think that does it, but we need a bit of space between both of them. So I can just say give it 30 here, and that gives a bit of space between the button and our text view. So that's just to add space to it. Okay, so I'll run this application and then we'll just still continue talking, so I can easily just apply changes that we are going to be making since I'm using an emulator. Okay, so the next thing, let's do a bit of changes to our button. So I'll click on the button and then I'll change the text to role. Okay, let's change the text to role. I think that's one of the things we can actually do. And then the next thing is to give it an ID. Okay, now the reason we give it an ID is so we can actually call this button, we can actually make use of this button. So let me call the ID role also. Sorry, role. Yeah, small letter. Okay, so or I can just say btn underscore role as btn for button. Okay, so you can actually see this warning. And for some of us who were in the last class, we know this is talking about hard-coded text. And we said that text should not be what hard-coded. So okay, so we can fix this. We can just fix this here, and then the resource name role, and then just click OK. So that takes away that problem. Okay, so now the next thing we will do is to style the text view. So let's give the text view a bit of style. I'm gonna say okay, so let's probably just increase the size. Let's make it let's use a 34. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, giving it 34. Now, another thing is I actually don't want to, now I want to introduce us to something. I don't want to have hello world here. We're actually using, we're talking about dice. So I want us to be displaying numbers. Okay, I want us to be displaying numbers. So now I don't want to have to, use 1 here. Okay, now if I do this, okay, so let me just make that change. I'll apply that. I've changed it to 1. Okay, I think I added an exclamation mark there. So, okay, it's already running, so just leave it. Now, using this text attribute, okay, when you run the application, you get to see exactly what is on your design. Okay, so I have to just change that. You get to see exactly what is on your design when you use this text attribute. But there is another text attribute called, which I'll introduce us to. Okay, so if you can see my screen, can you see the emulator?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so yes, you can now see the 1 and the exclamation mark. Okay, that was actually a mistake. So now, but I want to introduce us to another property of text. What if I want to just see how a text is going to look like without having to run the application and see it? Now, so for this, I'm actually going to just do a little bit of switching. I'm going to switch, but don't be alarmed. So I want to do this on the code level. Okay, so if you can see this, you have Android text, okay, where you have this young man here. But I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. So I want to change this to tools. I'm going to call tools, and then I'm going to say text. So and then I'm going to say 1. So what this is going to do is this. The tools.text attributes, it only shows whatever value you give it on the design. It does not show it when you run the application. I just ran the application and you can see it's not there. So that's what the tools :text attribute does. If it was Android on :text, you definitely see everything as it is. But when you use :text, you just see it on the design, but in compile time, you don't actually see it. So we basically just use it to see how probably a particular view is going to look like. How will a text look like or something? That's basically what we use that for. There's a lot of things you can do with tools. Let me just show you that. Okay, just to do that again. So let's see. So there's a lot of things actually you can do with that. You can target API, but that's beyond what we're actually going to be doing today. So let's just move on with that, okay? Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to move into the activity now. Okay, we have done the design. So how can we now write the code such that when you click on the row button, you get to see a number or something. So we're going to go to our class. We talked about classes in the last class. Wow. Okay, so the main activity. Now, I know I haven't explained some certain things here, but we will move as we move on. I'll get to talk about them. But basically, an activity is just a window okay, in which your application draws the UI, the user interface, okay? The activity just takes up the whole screen. Now, the thing is just one thing, a screen. Whatever, a screen is just an activity. When you open your Facebook, the first thing you see, probably you see the splash screen with the Facebook icon, that is an activity, okay? Now, they're actually what we call fragments, but we'll get into that much more later. Now, the top level, or the first activity rather, that is often called, okay, is the main activity, which is this. Just like when you're writing your, when we're writing our Kotlin code, what the function that the compiler looks out for is the main function. Also here in Android Studio, the activity that is being looked out for is the main activity, okay? Is the main activity. So when you're, for example, when you actually scroll, through your list of applications, let's say your, like I said, your Facebook, okay? And then you tap on it, you try to open the application. What the Android system calls, it starts up the main activity of the application. So in this, since that is where the Android system starts its work, it means that is where we need to provide the layout. We need to provide the layout. So when you open that first activity, what do you want the user to see? And how do you want the user to interact? When you built your birthday application, okay, it had just one activity and it was displaying, the birthday message and then the image and then, so some text. So in this application, we have just one activity that's just displaying a text view and the button layout that we just worked on. So we're going to be talking more about activities as we progress in the class. So now let's actually now do what we have actually always done. We need to actually get the IDs of our layouts. We need to get the IDs of our layout. So for now, let's get the ID of the button. So I'm going to say val. I'm going to call this roll button. And this roll button is of type, this variable I'm creating, the type of variable is going to be a button kind of variable. Okay, that's why we use the colon. It's going to be a button kind of variable. So what do we want to do as we have created the variable? We want to find the view, which is that button, using its ID. That's why I said find view by ID. And I'm going to say r.id. I think I've named it btn underscore row. So that is how we get the ID. Okay, so it's the button that we want to actually click on. So with that, I can now say roll button, and then I'll call the method set on click listener, the one with the curly brace. And then that is basically that. So that actually this just says, look, when you click on, we just set a click listener on the button. So the Android system listens for a click. Now, what do we want to do in this, when we click on this button? We just want to do something simple now. We want to do something simple. And that's where I'm going to be introducing us to what we call a toast message. Okay, I'm going to be introducing us to a toast message. It's just a brief message that appears to the user, just below at the bottom of your application. So I just want to create a toast when you click on the button, and that toast is going to say, okay, fine, the dice has been rolled. Okay, so there are two ways I can do that, and I'm going to do the long way, and I'm going to also do the short way. Now, the first way is I'm going to create a toast variable. I'm going to say val toast, and then I'm going to say call the toast class, because it's actually a class, and then it needs one of the things it needs is what we call a context. Okay, now I'll explain context as we move on, but for now I'm just going to say this. So this is how I'm just going to explain context for you for now. So when people, some of us have actually used the word a lot, okay, talk about context, basically just say, okay, fine, when you use the word in this context, when you make that statement, it means that whatever you're saying has a place that it thrives. Okay, it has a place that it needs to have meaning. It has a particular scope that it needs to function. That's basically what context is all about. And what we're trying to say is that the context for this message is the activity, which is the main activity. That's why we have this. So the next thing, okay, so I think I missed something. So supposed to have toast.makeText. Good. Thank you very much. Toast.make text. And then the next parameter that we're going to pass in this class is a text. What do you want to display to the user? And I just want to say dice rolled. Yeah, that's just all I want to say. And then the next parameter to pass, the next argument, is the duration. How long do you want the toast message to stay on the screen? So I want it to just stay for a short period of time. So I'm going to say toast dot and then access a property called length short in the toast class. So this is basically that. Now you can see it's actually just giving it a color, and they say toast cannot be created but not shown. We need to actually show it. So I'm going to now use the variable I created, which is this toast, and then I'm going to call the show method. Okay, so this is it. This is just displaying a toast message when you click the button. So I'm going to bring the emulator up and then apply this so we can see. So I'm going to apply that change and we get to see what happens. Okay, so we have to restart the application. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, we have the roll for. So let's see what, so just you can pay attention to the bottom of the screen somewhere around here. So when I click on the roll, you see the toast, dice rolled. Let me click on that again. You can see it, dice rolled. So that is just a toast message. Okay, so for best coding practice, look, if you look here, we had to create, a variable and then had to use the variable to call the show method. That's just long. That's actually just long. You can actually just make it short. And how can we do that? I'm just going to do this. So let's comment this out. So I can just do this. One thing Android Studio actually helps you do a lot of shortcuts. So when I try to type toast using small letters, I actually just see there's a way to create a new toast and it's shorter. So when I click on it, it just does this for me. So I pass just my context and then the message that I want to pass, which is dice rolled. Okay, and that's that with the .show method. So with this, you don't have to create a variable. Remember, I told us variable occupies space in memory. So try as much as possible to reduce creating variables. Okay, now you can see it's still working. So that is basically about creating a toast message. Okay, so I think we're good to go. There are no questions to be asked. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so another thing we're going to do is this. We want to update the text view when the button is
Sorry.
Okay, yes, you have a question. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Sometime in the last class, I asked about what's it called now? Data types. Then I basically what I was asking then was this. For example, now in this button where we created a button, that button we used after the colon there is looking like a data type. Like, what is it exactly?
Okay, so this is not a data type. It's actually a class. Okay, but we can just say it's a view type because button is a view. But at the same time, every view is a class. Now you look at, I'm actually on the button and then you get to see Android widget public class button extends the Android widget text. So this is a class, a button is a class. Okay, now when creating a variable, you need to tell us what kind of variable. So in the language, in programming language, okay, that's where we talk about data types. But now in Android Studio, there are view types. It's not like there are no data types here, but we're actually dealing with views. We're dealing with design, we're dealing with UI. So the button is a type of a view. So it is a view type. Okay?
All right, thank you very much. I understand
yes.
now.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go ahead. So what I want to do now is to, I believe I can delete this. Okay, let me just leave it. One thing, what we want to do now is to update the text view when the button is clicked. Okay, so instead of showing a toast message that is temporal, or we want to actually just write a code to update the text view when you roll the button. Okay, that's basically what we want to do. So since we are going to be making use of the text view, okay, because the truth is, for you to interact with any view, you must have the ID. So now we want to interact with the text view because we want to change the value. So to do that, it actually means we need to get the ID. So I'm going to get the ID of my text view. Did we give it an ID? Let's see. Okay, the ID here is text view. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to say val, and then let me call this results. Okay, so my result variable now is going to, what kind of variable is that? It's going to be a text view kind of what variable. Okay, that's the kind of variable it is. And it's going to be an immutable one because it is a val. So what do I want to store in that? I want to store the ID. So I'm going to say find view by ID, and there's going to be r.id and then dot text view. So that is that. So I've gotten the what the ID of the text view. So since we don't want to actually create a toast anymore, okay, let me just comment the whole of this. And then at some point I might actually just have to take it out. So what do we now want to do? We want to update the text view. So we want to just say, okay, fine, whatever was there, for now, what is there? Okay, let's switch this back to Android text. And then, so from this now, you know that from what I explained before, the fact that it's a text, it's Android : text, means that it will display on the screen when you run the app. We have already tested that. So that means when we run this application, we are expected to see 1. We actually want to see 1. That's what we are expecting to see when we run the application. Okay, so let's just be sure that works. Let's just be sure that works. Okay, yes, that works. We are seeing 1. So now, but we want to update it so that probably when I click on the roll button, let that 1 change to another number. So how do we do that? We have gotten the ID of the results of the text view, and we stored it in result. So with that variable now, it means I've actually just created basically an object. Okay, we talked about classes and object. So since result has the ID of a text view, it means we can call every property and function in that text view using the dot operator. So when you use the dot operator, you see there's a lot of things that you can do with the text view. A lot of things. You can get error messages. You can set the hints and everything. So that's that. But for now, what we want to do is this text. Now, if you look at this text, you have what we have in. If you look at it, you have from get text and set text. Now in Java, whenever you create a property, okay, in a class, you actually have to set do what we call a setter method and a getter method. So the setter method just sets the text, it gives it a value, while the getter method just gets that value. So, but in Kotlin, it's a bit more easier. You can just call the access property, which is the text, and anything you now do, it basically just knows whether you want to set the text or get the text. So I'm going to say results.text, and what do I want to do? I want to give it the value of, 5. Okay, I want to give it the value of 5. So this now becomes a set because I'm actually assigning the fact that I'm actually assigning a value to the text. So let's run this and click on the button and see if that is going to take effect. So we're going to reinstall, and then, okay, so clicking on the roll button now, and then we see we have a 5. So that is how you update the text view. That's basically that. It's as simple as that. So now, let's now bring in, this was just preamble. Let's now bring in what we actually did in the last class, the Kotlin code, the random functions that we wrote, okay? Let's now bring it into this logic. So how do we do that? Okay, so I'm going to actually just create a class. And yes, you can actually create a class inside of a class. It's very possible. You can create a class inside of a class. So in our main activity class, now outside the onCreate function, okay, you shouldn't create a class inside the onCreate. This is a function. So outside the onCreate function, but inside the main activity class, I can now create another class and call it dice, just like we did in our assignments. And then val, let me see, num, let's say size, I think that's what we did. And our size is going to be of an integer type. We want this variable called size to take just numbers. Okay, and then we said our dice should have a row function that was going to return a number, which is an integer. Okay, and then we did something like, I think, return. Okay, we made it short by saying 1, 2 sides, and then we called the random, right? Yes. So I think this is what we did in the last class. So we have actually just brought it down to to Android Studio. Okay, so now let's now do something. We don't want this anymore, so let's take this out. Now I want to do something. I want to write. Now remember the logic we wrote, okay? When we created remember the logic we actually wrote. Now I don't want to. We want to do something now, but I don't want to actually have to write a lot of code in my set on click listener. Okay, I want to create a function that does what I want it to do, and then I'll just call that function in the row button.set on click listener. Remember, we did a lot of things in the main function after creating our class in Kotlin. Okay, so those stuff that we did in the main function, we want to do it now, but we want to now create a function for it and call it in the row button. So I'm going to say in our, when you click on the button, I want to create a function called roll dice. So I want to create a function. Now, Android Studio is actually, of course, it's showing red because this function does not exist. So whenever you see the unresolved reference, okay, it's telling you that, look, that particular thing you wrote there, either a variable or a class or whatever, is not, it doesn't exist. That's what it means by unresolved reference. So I'm going to create this function now. I'll just click on create function, and then it does that for me easily. So we have a to do, which means that there's something you need to do on this application, on this function, which is what we're going to do now. Now we have written this code before, so I'm just going to try to run it as fast as possible. So what we did in our main function then was to create an object of the dice class. So for and then give it a side. Sorry. So I'm going to say mine is 6. Okay. Now for some of us, I did not type this sides you're seeing here. All I did was to put the 6. Now it's just this side is coming from this young man here. Now you can also see that there's an underline, and it tells you that, look, you can actually make this site what private, okay, because no other class is going to call it. So make it private. So we can just head to Android Studio's what request and make it private, and that clears that. So the next thing we did from our example, from our class, was to then get the dice roll, okay, and then we used our objects, which is the dice, okay, and then we called the roll function. Okay, that was what we did. So now let's stop here. This dice is an object. Okay, if you can see, you see val dice of type main activity dot dice. So the main activity dot the dice, this dice is the class. So this particular dice is our object. So with this object, we are able to call the roll function. Now, what does our roll function return? Our roll function returns an integer number. It returns a number, which is an integer. So that means when you roll the dice, it will take whatever value and store it in this dice roll. So that means our dice roll is going to be an integer variable because that's what is stored in the dice roll. So what we want to do is to take that value and display it on the text view. So how do we do that? It's just the same thing. I'm just going to take out this code from here, and I'm going to put it here. So this is us taking the ID, storing the ID of the text view. So after getting the ID, I'll now say results.text equal, we're going to store what? Dice roll, which is this. So now, but you see we have an error, and the error is this: the results.text is expecting a string. That's why you see we have what? A mismatch, type mismatch. It requires a character sequence, a sequence of characters, which is what? A string. But what it actually found, what you actually gave to it was an integer. So what we can do is to add this method we call toString. So it now converts the integer to a string. Okay, that's just how we do that. So if you notice, the red has gone out from here. So sometimes Android Studio takes a little bit of time to analyze. So whenever if you see a red under this class, but you don't see it here, you're good to go. Okay, if you see a red under here, but you don't actually see it here, don't worry, you're good to go. So we have a warning. So let's see. Yes, our warning is from this place. So we have an import statement that we are not using, so we can take that out. This is for best practice. Okay, so I think that's that. So let's run this and see what we have. Let's see what we have when we run this application. Okay, so yes, we have to reinstall and restart. Okay, so for now we have a 1 because that's actually what we designed. So let's see if when we click on our role, it gives us that. So I'm going to click on role, and then we have 2, and then we have 3, and then we have 1, and then we have 3, and we have 6, and then so it gives us random numbers. So this is just we taking what we did in the last class and applying it into an application. Okay, so we talked about best practices. We need to always try to clean up our code, reduce it to the barest minimal, so it looks cleaner. Okay, so another thing you can do, sometimes you may not know how to really format our code. You can actually just come down to code. Since you're on this activity, you can come to this place, code, and then I think, yes, and you see Reformat Code. So you can click on that and it will just help you do a bit of reformatting, or you use the shortcuts for Windows Control. You first of all highlight and then you do Control Alt L. It also does that for you. That's for reformatting, especially when, so to keep your code indentation and some other things in check. You can also do that for your XML. So that's basically that. Now, another thing I want us to imbibe. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can.
Yes, you can hear me.
Okay, so someone asked, is reformatting same as refactoring? No, they are not. Okay, reformatting just is based on arrangement. Okay, it just helps you to arrange your code, okay, and probably just put best practice. Refactoring means you're changing something, you're changing, okay? So there are two different things, they're not the same. Reformatting is just based on alignment, it's just, so that's basically that. Okay, so one last thing I want to encourage is commenting of codes. That still falls under best practices, okay? Commenting your code, it makes it easy for people to understand what you're doing. Okay, for example, I can just come here and say, okay, maybe not there, let's use the class. I can actually just, above the dice, I can say, okay, create new dice object with 6 sides and roll it. Okay, so this is just basically a comment. So this helps someone who's going through your code to know what this whole thing is doing. You can have as much comment as possible, but at least try not to overdo it. Okay, so that's basically that. So
Sorry,
at this
please.
point, I'm going to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I want to find out. That's a way you select multiple lines and just make them a comment at once. Whenever I try that, it just deletes all the text.
Okay.
And then comment line. I don't know how you.
Okay. So what I do is when you highlight, okay, you hold your control and your /. So control /. That's how you do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So any other question before we move on? Like I said, there's not really a lot, but there's yeah, kind of have a lot to do. We actually have to go into build another application. Well, just a modification from this. So any other question? Fola, you raised your hand. Go ahead. Hello, Fola. Okay, so probably when you're able to speak up, just let me lower your hand. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so now I want to introduce us to conditional statements. Okay, I want us to look at conditional statements because now when you're playing your Ludo, okay, you actually, okay, Fola, you raised your hand. Okay, go ahead with your question.
Sorry, sir, I forgot to mute on my mic.
Okay.
My question is, in Kotlin, does code run by line, like line by line? Because I'm seeing you're declaring the class below some of the main stuff that's supposed to work. So I'm wondering if that's supposed to be what that's supposed to hold.
Okay. If it runs line by line, yes, it actually does. Okay. But yes, it does. It does run line by line. But let's look at this now. When it runs, please to mute your mic. Okay. So listen up. So when it runs this line, it's done with this. It gets the ID. It goes to the next line. Okay. It needs to run this. It comes inside here. Now, when it comes here, it realizes that this is a method, and then it has to go into this method. Okay, and going into this method means it comes down to this place, to line 24, and then that means it comes down to line 26. Now, for it to get the objects, okay, when it gets here, it has to access this class. So I actually was supposed to do debugging and log cards, but let me just point that out since you have. Let me point that out since you have brought it up. Okay, so let me do something. Let me prove that. So so I'm going to do something, attach a debugger. I'll explain this later. So for now, let me put a breakpoint on. Let me put it here. Let me put it here. Or better still, okay, let's just do that here. Okay. Now, Fola, I hope you're with me. Okay, so this is it. I put a breakpoint here. So what I want to do, I want to see what goes on when I click on this row button. I want to see what goes on. So when I click on this, so you can see, don't worry, don't bother much about this. Okay, but just look here. Now you have step over, step into, and so this is basically what it does. Okay, now when I click on this, it comes into this method. Okay, so yes, it runs line by line, but in a particular line, if it needs something that is probably in another class or something that is in a line maybe below or above, it goes there. So let me do this. This is just a comment. So and then because it needs to get to this class, it steps over. It goes to what? Because it needs to create this object. Then it goes to the what? Dice class. So it's not like it skipped all this. It just skipped because there was something it needed to access that is not even in the next line. It is somewhere else. So it had to what? Go in there. So that's basically it. So it comes back and then it goes to the next line and then it goes to the next line and then the next one. And then it goes back up here to show that, look, I'm done with this method. And then it goes to the next line, which is what? Line 21. So it runs line by line, but if there is something in a particular line that is required somewhere, it goes there to get it. So it's just like I send you a message, go straight to a particular shop, okay, and buy me this. Now, yes, you might actually take a particular route, but if you need something that's going to help you to buy that stuff and it requires you to branch, of course you will branch. Okay, so that's I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on. You can lower your hand, please. Let's move on. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be talking about if conditional statements, because we need to add a little bit of spice to the application. Now, basically what I'm saying is this. So I was saying when you throw your dice, okay, for people who play Ludo, now there's one number that everybody is expecting to get. What is that number?
6.
6, good. Like
6.
Yeah, 6. So that number is like the key of everything. Like if you get that number, man, you're damn lucky. Okay, so there are people who get like 3, 6, 4, 6. I'm like, guy, come on, what luck are you actually using? So 6 is the lucky number. Yeah, though at times when you need to go into your house, have you ever looked for 1 before? For people who have played Ludo, have you looked for 1 before? You will throw and throw. At that point, 1 becomes your lucky number. So there is a number to look out for. Okay, so that's what we want to work on now. How can we actually check for a condition, do a condition that, look, if you get this number, that means that number is a lucky number. So that brings us to talking about conditional statements. So I'm going to just drag this. Okay, so I believe you can see my screen.
Yes, the playground.
So like we did the last class, we're going to talk about the code, but this time we'll write the code and then we'll apply it immediately in building the application. So I'm basically going to teach you about if and else statements, okay, how to compare values, okay, using operators, greater than, less than, or equal to, and then how to use when statements, okay, to choose an option, okay, and then we'll also look at the Boolean data type. So now, this is one of the things I usually tell people. One of the things I hope you learn is to, first of all, understand the literal meaning of a word. Okay, we use the word if in our statements. We use the word else. We use the word when. We use these words. And this is because decision is part of our everyday lives. We get to make what decision. So, but how do we make that decision within our code? So this is basically what we want to try to do. If you roll, like I said, if you roll a lucky number, okay, it will display a congratulations message. But if you don't roll a lucky number, then it should just display a message to say, try again. So let's look at a basic if statement, okay? So an if statement has what we call a syntax. Syntax means the set of rules that apply to a particular thing. So an if statement has a syntax. And the syntax is this. If a particular condition, okay, is true, I'm just going to be using text now, okay? This is not actually how I write it. If a particular condition is true, what do I want you to do? I want you to execute the code that's in this braces. This is the syntax to an if statement. So if whatever you put into this place, if whatever you put in the braces, okay, is a condition, is a statement that should amount to either true or false. And remember, true or false falls under the Boolean data type. So if it is true, come into this curly brace, which is our scope, and execute whatever I put inside here, okay? If it is a false, we can also now give it, that's why when I say else, we want you to do something else. Maybe we'll say don't execute, okay, sorry about that. Okay, don't execute code. So if it is true, I want you to execute the code. If it is not true, don't execute the code, or probably do something else, or probably can just say do something else. So this is the basic syntax for an if statement. Okay, so how can we apply that? Let's write a simple if statement now. So first of all, I'm going to create a variable called num. I'm going to store 5. I'm going to say num has the value of 5. Okay, now, so what do I want to do? I want to check something. I want to say, so if num, now remember num is actually 5. So if num is greater than 4, rather, I want you to print this, print true. Sorry, print true. So this is just a simple condition. So the num here is actually what 5 because we stored 5. So we're saying, look, if 5 is greater than 4, print what true. Now the question is this a valid if condition? So let's run this and then what will yes, it gives us true because 5 is greater than what 4. But what if we change this? What if I now say 5 greater than 9? Well, you and I know 5 is not greater than 9. So that means this condition is false. So will it print what is in here? Well, let's find out. It doesn't print anything. Why? Because the condition here amounted to what? False. So it only runs the code inside the curly brace if the condition is true. But if the condition is false, it will not do it except you explicitly tell it what to do when the condition is false. So how do I do that? I can say else print, and then I'll say false. So when we run this, I should see false. Yes, I should see false. So that's actually a basic if what statement. Okay, that's a basic if statement. Now let's move on. Let's do something a bit more. Listen, so that's actually that. So another thing we can do is there's what we call a nested if statement. Now, nested if statement is just an if statement inside an if statement inside an if statement. Now, a simple illustration could be your mom telling you, okay, please, I need you to take this money, go to the market. Go to the shop, if they have locks, buy. Else, if they don't have locks, buy Detto. If they don't have Detto, come back. So that is 2 ifs in that statement. So the first one is the locks. So if you see locks, of course, you're not going to buy Detto if you see locks because locks came first. That was the first instruction. So if you see locks, buy. Else, if you don't see locks, buy Detto. If you don't see Detto, please just come back with my money. That's a nested if, an if statement inside an if statement. So we can actually test that out. So let's put this back to 4, and then I'm going to say if num, which is 5, is greater than 4, print true. And can I say else if, and then I want to put a condition because I'm using an if num is equal to 4. So this is the operator sign for, this is the sign for what? Equality. I remember telling us in the last class, this is for what? Equality. This checks if 2 things are equal. So else, if it's equal to 4, tell me it is equal to 4. But if there's no other thing, so I can just say, if I don't want to add another condition, I need to round it up, and I'll say else print line, and then just say it. Okay, sorry, that should be say it is less than 4. So this is nested what if, an if statement inside an if statement. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and this gives us what? True. Okay, because the first condition was what? True. That's why it gave us true. So let's manipulate and let's see. How can we actually test to get so let's see if I set num to 4. Now if you check, num 4 is not greater than 4. So this should not run because 4 is not greater than 4. But 4 is equal to 4. So that means we should have this on the screen equal to 4. So let's test that out. And yes, you have equal to 4. Okay, so if I change this to 3, I think that should give us the last print statement. Yes, because 3 is not greater than 4. It is not equal to 4. So that means it is less than 4. So that's basically what that's, okay? So that's actually so that's basically about that. So the question is, how can we apply this into our code? Okay, so before we go into Android Studio, let me try to replicate what we had in our previous code. I think I'm trying as much as possible not to rewrite a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so but just flow with me for the sake of people who were not in the lesson. So I think we had a class that had dice, and then it had sides, side ends, okay, and then I think it had a row function that returned an int, okay, and then we said it should return 1, 2 sides, right? And then dot random. Okay, so I think this is what we had before. So and then we so let's actually add the logic. Let's add a control. Let's add a decision making in this. So I'm going to say first dice. I want to create an object of the dice class, and then I'm going to let my dice have 6 sides, okay? And then I'm going to create a variable. I want to store my results. Okay, let's just call it result. That's the result from when you roll the application. And that's going to be my first dice. I'm going to call my first dice. Then that's the object, and it will call the roll method. Okay, so that is now, so what is going to be stored in the result is going to be an integer number, because that's what is returned when you call the roll function. So now I want to set that our lucky number, I want to actually state that our lucky number is actually what? 6. That's going to be our lucky number, because we just started playing the Ludo game, and of course, man, you need 6 to come out of your house. Okay, so this is me now checking. So this is where the if statement comes in. So I'm just going to say if our result, that is the result of the dice that we roll, is equal to the lucky number, what should we do? I'll print line come out of the house. So this is basic. This is a basic what if statement. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so we're having, it's not printing. So let's find out what the issue is. So we have the class that's val sites. Okay, and then the roll function, and then first dice.roll, and then the locking arm. So if it's this, okay. So the reason is this. Okay, let me ask. Who can tell me why it did not print out anything? Who can tell me why?
I think because there is no
random.
Emmanuel, go ahead.
Okay, I think because it's random, so the number it actually selected now was not 6 and would not state any else statement for if it is not 6.
Good, that's a very good one. So we didn't state any else statement if it's not 6. So the only thing that will make this code to actually print out something is if it sees a 6. So that means we can keep on running and hoping we see a 6. Man, 6 See, this is the typical Ludo experience. This is a typical Ludo experience. By this time, like 5 people must have come out of the house, and 2 of their games are actually okay. So let's actually save ourselves the stress and okay, fine, we got a 6. Voila, we got a 6. So that is actually it. So to prevent, the whole not running, you can decide to put an else statement. Okay. So that's typically up to you. So let's do this. I'm going to say, to be able, let's just try something. So else print print line. So else, I think I just want you to print let it print the result for me. Yes, I want to be able to let me know what I'm actually getting. Probably I'm not getting the 6. Let me know that I'm not getting the 6. So let's see. So 5, yeah. And then 2, and then 4, and the rest. So this is a typical, this is just a simple if statement to check if we actually have the lucky number. Okay, so that's actually that. So the thing is, let's look at something. I want to do something very, very boring, like that when you actually see it, it's like, well, what's going on? So I'm going to do this. So else if let's do this. Roll okay, if result equals 1, okay, this is what I want you to do. Just print you failed with let me just call back my result. So you failed with that. Okay, so I want to do something now. I just want to duplicate this. I want to check, I want to give an else if statement for every other number that is not 6. So 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. Okay, so we should see something. Okay, so we got a 6. That's why we're saying come out of the house. You failed with 5. You failed with 4. So I think let's just add a bit of grammar, not like it's very important or anybody cares. So you failed with A. Okay, and then that's that. Okay, so this works actually, but it's kind of, it's much actually. It's actually much. Okay, it's actually much. So how can we actually, this actually introduces us to another conditional statement called the when. Now in this code, you can actually notice something. The result, okay, should give a lucky number, right? We are actually checking here if the result is going to give us a lucky number. That's basically what we are checking. Now, another thing to note in this code is that the roll result, that is, if the roll result is a lucky number, that means you are coming out of the house. That means, okay, you can start the game. Now, and otherwise, we are actually checking if the roll result is, if the result rather is 1, and then you print a try again message, like you print a failed message or whatever. So, and we can actually print different messages as we want, okay? But the thing is, if the number hasn't been, if the number, okay, that is the result, is nothing between 1 to 5, if it hasn't been any of that, that means the only option is that it is 6, right? Hello?
Yeah, yes.
Good. So if, because here we just captured 1 to 5, so if it is actually 6, we can actually, so I can actually just say else print okay, print, I can just say 6 or what, or you win, just something, just that. So this automatically just tells you that, okay, well, it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 4, it's not 5. Well, it's definitely 6. So that's why we can, adding this last else statement makes it valid also. But now, like I said, this kind of introduces us to a simpler way of writing this code using the when statement. Okay. Now, if we're using this if statement, testing for one thing about programming, okay, sometimes you have to test for different outcomes or cases, okay, and the list of those possible outcomes can be very long, okay. Like for example, imagine if we're rolling a 12-sided dice, that means we'll have to write 11 else if statements, okay. If we're rolling a 20-sided dice, we'll have to roll a 19 else if statement with the final else, okay. So we'll actually modify this program to make use of the when statement, okay. So when statement actually just starts with the keyword when and then followed by parentheses, just like you have the if. So I'm going to should I comment this out? Okay, let's just comment this out, and then so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, okay, let me do this from the top. Let me come here. So I'm just going to say when. Now, when what? Okay, when that's another question. When what? Okay. Now, when the result, because that is what we are really checking for. Okay, is the results that we are actually getting. The results are the possible outcomes. So when the results do something, that means when 1, when 2, when it's 3, when it's 4, when it's 5, when it's 6. That's just basically what we are trying to do here. So I'm just going to test it out. So I can say when results, I will now say lucky number. Now, what is our lucky number? Our lucky number here is 6, right? Print. So this is how we do for the let's use the print line. Print you win. So this is how we actually make use of the words when statement. So when the result, okay. So that means when the result, whatever number, if let's for example, your result here now becomes 2. When it is 2, okay, you need to now check for this lucky number. Our lucky number is 4. They are not the same. So it actually checks when these 2 are what? Equal. Okay, but it compares it with the word lucky number. So when we run this, we don't have any result. We're not seeing anything because it is not 6. We have to keep on running till we get a 6 for us to see the you win, and probably, okay, fine, we've gotten a 6. So when the result of rolling the dice is the lucky number, that is basically what it's saying. When the result of rolling the dice is the lucky number, print you win. That's basically the when statement. So with this, we can actually check. We can now check for other possible values. So the next possible value is to say when the result, okay, is 1. What do we want to do? I want to print. Let's say sorry. Try again. Okay, and then I can just do the same thing for 2, do the same thing for 3, and then, sorry about that. Okay, so you can change this to 2, change this to 3, change this to 4, and then change this to 5. So let's run this. So sorry, try again. That means you've run either 1 to 5. So we can actually pick out the number in case you want to see it by saying, let's say something like you rolled, and then we'll call what? You rolled the result. So we'll call the result. You rolled, and then say result. Okay, so I can decide to, so let's, okay, let me just do this, and let's duplicate it for others so we get to see what it is, but basically this might actually give us an error, a logical error. For someone who can pick that out, you tell me. So, so you wrote 3, sorry. You rolled 1, sorry, and then a whole lot of that. Oh, you win. That means you rolled a 6. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so someone is asking what that is. Okay, say an arrow operator rather. Okay, yes, so it's actually a pointer. Okay, it's actually a pointer. Just think of it as a what pointer. When it is this, I'm pointing you to do something. You can just think of it as that. Okay, so that's actually that about.
Sorry.
Yes.
Please, I just need to get some clarifications on when we make use of these operators, like the arrow, the equal to, the same as this, as the single equal to, and then the double equal to, and then the column. There are different areas, the parentheses, the curly braces. Is it possible we have maybe? I feel there's a fundamental reason why we have to use those particular systems. Sometimes I've tried some codes, I use a column and to tell me, no, I shouldn't have done that. It's expecting to see this, not that, and it's a bit confusing. Sorry, I don't know if you get the sense of what I'm trying to say.
Okay, yeah, if I get you correctly. Well, the thing is, everything has a place where you actually use them. Now, I'll give you an example. Like this, let me just, like, for example, this colon, okay? Now, we use it to actually, we're going to say val num of type int. Okay, so this colon here is basically asking you, what it basically does is to kind of declare or define what this variable takes. Okay, in this context, it declares or defines what this variable, like what this variable is made up of, or what this variable allows to be stored in it. But there are cases, especially in Android Studio, this young man, this same thing actually talks about inheritance. Okay, so it's all about context. It's all about context. Okay, it's all about context. But basically, for example, this is equality sign. This checks for if two things are equal. Okay, so it's all about context, like I said. Okay, but generally they do the same thing. It's just the context is a bit more different. So with time as we are going, we get to use most of all these operators, and then we get to see the different ways you can actually make use of them. I don't know if that actually just answers it in a way for you.
Yeah, looking forward to it then. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. So let's move on. Okay, so that's me actually introducing you to conditional statements. Okay, now let's apply it in building, into our application. Let's now apply it into our application. So how can we actually add this functionality in our application? So first things first, I'm going to, let's move over to Android Studio. Okay, let's go back. So, well, I'm going to be adding some images to this application. Okay, I have them on my local, so I'm going to upload them, or I'll put them in a drive. Okay, and drop the link for you guys to access them and then use it to try it out. So I have some images I'm going to make use of. Some dice images, so I'll just paste them like I showed you the last time in my drawable folder. That's where you store your images. Then I'll just paste it and make sure you drop it in the first one, the drawable folder, not the V24. This talks about lower versions. Okay, so you don't store it here, first put it here, and then you click OK, and then you confirm your directory. And then this is it. So these are the dice images we're going to be making use of. This is a dice 1, dice 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And then this is actually an empty dice. Okay, so we're going to be making use of those dices. Okay, so now basically is this, we want a situation whereby if you click on, if you get a 1, it should show the dice with a 1. If you roll a 5, it should show a dice with a 5. So now what are we going to do? We just need to add an image view. We don't need a text view now anymore. I can minimize this, yes. We don't need a text view now anymore. So let me go to design, good. We don't need a text view, so we need an image view. So I'll just click on this and take it out. Okay, so taking it out, my button is not constrained. There's no top and bottom constraint, so we'll fix that later. So now I want an image view. I'll just drag this down here. Okay, I think this is fine. So now I get to choose the image I want. Do I want the dice 1? Do I want the dice 2? Or do I want the dice 3? So it's up to you. But first of all, I'm going to use the dice 1. Okay, let's just put dice 1 as a default. So I'm going to click OK. So yeah, it kind of needs a bit more scaling and arrangement, so you can do that, but that's not what we really worry about. But so let me get the button. I want the top of the button to be below good. So for it to be below this dice, okay, so and then the image view, of course, we need to constrain it to the top. So I could just drag this down here. And okay, so I can just actually do this. So okay, so this is that. Okay, so this is just simple. This is, so you can change the background if you want. Let's see. So everything will not be white. Our constraint layout. Let's see. We have okay. Okay, probably let's do that with the code, since for people who had issues the last time, let's do it with the code. Okay, so basically this is just what we want to do, add an image to it. Okay, so you can actually style your image, just do, instead of it to allow you to take, for you not to take a lot of space. If you come here, well, it's actually wrap content. You can decide to choose the size. You can decide to say, okay, fine, maybe this is too big. I want the width to be 200 density pixel, and then I want the height to be, let's say, 160 density pixel. So that's up to you, and then it reduces it. Okay, so I think this is fine. This is fine. This is okay. Okay, so let's move on. So let's now actually, get let's do this now. On our main activity, well, we're not using an image view, a text view anymore. So I'll just update this same function. In this function, we are updating the text view. Now I want to update the image view to display the right image. So I'm just going to change this result variable. I'll call it image. And the image is the type is going to be an image view type. And then, okay, did we give it a name? Let's find out. Okay, by default, the ID is image view. So I can actually just change it to dice image. So someone was asking the difference between reformatting and refactoring. Now, this had a name before, but I'm changing the name. That's refactoring. So when I click on enter, you see rename resource. So this is actually what refactoring. That's why you have the refactor, but this is notification and button there. So so I'm going to change this to what did we name it again? Okay, yeah, dice image. Good, dice image. So we can't call this. We can't call this because we don't need that. So what do we want to do? Okay, what do we want to do? We want to, when this dice roll is clicked, okay, when the image rather, okay, what we want to do is this. We want to set the image resource. Okay, there's what we call set image resource. That is, we want to give it an image. So we use this set image resource method, and it actually takes an integer. Okay, it takes an integer value, and we already have that. So I'm going to say, now I want to access one of our drawables here. So what do I want to do? I want to set this image to have a particular, picture, okay? So I'm going to do, so how do I access it? Well, the drawable is in the resource folder. So we go with our R dot, and it's in drawable, and then dot. So let me use dice2. So that means when I click on the button, it's going to call this roll dice method, and the roll dice method should set the image to be dice2 and no longer dice1. Here it is dice1, but I want to change it to be dice2. Okay, so let's actually just run the app. Remember I told you whenever you have this red line under here and you don't have it here, you're good to go, but look out for warnings. Okay, so let's run this application and get to see what we have on that. Okay, so I'm going to terminate. I don't want to use a debugger anymore. Okay, so yeah, by default, we have the 1. Okay, so when we click on this roll, what happens? It changes to the second dice. That is what we actually told it to do. So that works. Okay, that actually what works. But nothing happens again when you actually click on it. Nothing happens. So let's look into that. We want to display the correct dice. Okay, we want to display the correct dice when the based on what is being rolled. Okay, now if you look at this function, we are not even using this dice roll. We're not using it yet. Okay, you can see remove what the variable dice roll is never used, and this dice roll actually stores the result of rolling a dice. So how do we do that? So basically, if the user rolls a 1, we want to display the 1 dice. If the user rolls a 2, we want to display the 2 dice, and so on and so forth. Okay, so just like what we did in our other code, we can just run that here. So I'm going to use a when and not an if. Okay, I'm going to use a when instead. So I can take this out. We don't want to just set it to anything yet. And then I'm going to update this. We have an empty dice image. So I'll just come here. Let me do that in the code. We have an empty dice. So let's change this to yes, empty dice. So we don't want to see anything until you roll. So let's leave it at that. Okay, so let's now write the logic. So when, okay, let's do this. When what? When dice would roll. Okay, that's the result of when you rolling the dice. So that is when you have 1, when you have 2, when you have 3, when you have 4, and the likes. What happens? What should be done? Okay, so let's look at it. So this is it. When it's a 1, what do we want? We'll call the image, and then we will set the image to be, okay, sorry, r.drawable dot dice 1. That is it. So we'll do that for the rest. So I'll just do Control D to duplicate this, and then we'll update as it is. So this should be a 2, this should be a 3, this should be a 4, this should be a 5, and then this should be a 6. So when you have 2, we should see dice 2. When we have 3, we should see dice 3. When we have 4, we should see dice 4. When we have 5, we should see dice 5. And then when we have 6, we should see dice 6. Okay, so that is that. So let's see if this actually works. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to apply the changes I've made, and then let's see. Okay, so it has applied. So remember, we used empty dice. So when we roll, we have a 6. and then it shows the 6, the dice with the 6 on it. Let's roll again. We have a 1. We roll again. We have a 1. We have a 3. We have a 5. So we have actually just created, you know, a Ludo. Actually, you know, we have created a dice game. So that is basically that. So one more thing before we round up: optimizing your code. It is very important to optimize your code. Okay, now if you notice, we notice that in our when statements, okay, dice.image resource, you know, that this image.set image resource, okay, if you notice, this appears 6 times in our when statement: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So how can we actually just make this come out less? Because every time it's actually going to be calling itself. So how can we, you know, reduce this thing? Because we check, the only thing that changes between each case is the resource ID. This is the only thing that changes here. Dice 1, dice 2, dice 3. This is the only thing that changes. This is constant. So we can actually just, you know, create a variable that will store all these guys. That will just store the IDs. Okay, we'll just create a variable that will store the resource ID. Then we can now call the image.set image resource. So let's do this. This is basically, so I'll just call it once. So I'm just going to comment this out. And okay, hold on. Let me copy it first. Okay, then comment it out. Okay, so let's optimize this. So this is how I'm going to optimize this. I'm going to say val, I'm going to create a variable, drawable resource, because I want to just store that drawable resource. Okay, and this is it. So when dice roll, okay, store, I want to just get whatever, I want to store it in this drawable resource. So I'm going to take out this guy. Okay. Take this out. Take this out. And then take this out. Okay, so it actually doesn't, sorry, it doesn't need to take out all this. It doesn't need to be in a bracket. Okay, so basically what we are saying, excuse me, okay, so it's asking for an else branch, but don't worry about that. We'll look into something else. So this is, well, basically what we are doing is this. We want to get the image, okay? So we're saying when we create a variable, so when you have rolled a dice, so your dice can actually give you a 2. When it is 2, just give me the image and store it here. When it is 1, get me that image and store it here. When it is 3, get me that image and store it here. And then I can now use the image the way I want. So I'll just say image, which is this image view, okay? Dot set image resource, and then I'll pass in drawable resource. Okay, so this is just basically that. So what am I just doing here? I'm just calling the set image resource once. I'm storing the images that is going to be gotten when you roll a 1 or a 2 in a drawable resource variable. Okay, so that is actually that, but we have this error here saying that when expression must be exhaustive. So that means you need to add the necessary else branch. So basically what that is saying, look, you must exhaust all possible options. And well, we have just 6 options actually. So and so what we can just do is just do else. So the else now covers for the last option, which is the word 6. So if you roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the only other number you can roll is a 6. So this is, we actually just calling our set image resource just once without having to always call that again. So another thing to do, code practices actually, for some of us, we remember the image, you can set content description. Now, some of us, all of us rather, we actually did it on the XML here. So you know how to do that. But you can also do that, in the code. So I can just, do that here. I can say image dot content description. This is another way I can actually do that. And then I'm going to say dice roll. Now remember, our dice roll is an integer, but content description it returns what? It expects a string. So we can convert that by saying to string. And then you've just set the content. So our content description now is actually dice roll. That is the result of whatever you roll, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We still have a yellow sign, a warning. So that's right here, unused import. So we can take that out. Okay, so let's apply and see if we're on the right track. Let's apply changes. Okay, so changes have been applied. So when we roll, yeah, we have a 3, we have a 6, we have a 5. Everything is working fine. Okay, so that's basically that. You can also add comments to your code and also remember code formatting. Okay, you just come down here and then reformat your code, and it just arranges that for you. So try commenting your code. So basically that is that for the class. So I'm going to be entertaining questions, and then we call it a day, a night rather. So questions. Okay, Fola, go ahead.
Okay, sir. I tried doing this yesterday, doing this entire thing on my Android Studio, but then I ran into an error while trying to use the random function. It's labeled as red. I was thinking I didn't import a particular package. I don't know if that's it.
Okay, so yes, one of the things I think I skipped that. You can actually activate auto import. Okay, just go to your settings and then just think import. Yeah, auto import. So this is one of the things you should activate in your Android Studio. So this helps you just import libraries. Okay, or you have add unambiguous import on the fly, optimize import, add unambiguous import on the fly. So this helps you to just show import power. So this helps you to import libraries, okay, that you may need to do a particular thing. So this is one of the things you have to just enable on your Android Studio, and that should solve that problem. Okay. Someone says, so this is how the magic works. Yeah, this is how the magic works, yes. Well, it's not magic, it's actually logic rather. Okay, so any other question? Fola, you still have a question, your hand is raised. Okay, so I'm going to round off this class with pushing this on GitHub. So some people had issues with, some people were asking how to do that. Well, you can actually do that on Android Studio. And I'm actually going to do that from Android Studio here. From Android Studio, push this code to GitHub, or you need to have a GitHub account. And I'm also going to point out, I think one of the new things GitHub does now is this: you don't authenticate with your password. You actually do that with a key. So you might have to get that. Probably I'll drop a link for you guys to be able to do that. Or you just basically go to your profile, your settings, and then go to the thing developer, and then you're able to fix that up. So how can you push this code to GitHub using Android Studio? Okay, well, you must have Git installed on your system. That's very, very important. Then you just go to VCS, and then you enable version control integration. So you click on that, and then of course you have Git here. You just click on OK. So this, you can see created Git repository in C users, Android Studio project, Distro. So this creates a repository in your local. So I'm going to just try to minimize so you can get to see. Okay, so if you look below here, you see this master. Okay, that means it's a branch and it has been created. Okay, so now you can see all these colors. Your code is now colored. It has not been added. It has not been committed. Like it's just on your local. You have connected it. You have created a Git repository. So you need to, you have enabled Git rather. So you need to push this code. So you can just come to VCS and then just, you can actually just do Git add. Okay, but let's, okay. I'll just go to Git commit. Now, when you go to Git commit, first of all, actually you should add, okay? But so you can do that here. If you look at this left-hand side, if I open this up, you see a lot of things. Everything about your code is actually here. There, you can decide to not push some files, okay? But for now, we'll just run everything. As we move forward, we'll actually talk about certain things maybe you shouldn't push to your repo. So I'm just going to check this. So this checks all of them. And then you need to give a commit message. You need to give a commit message. So I'm just going to say initial commit. And then I'll commit that, click on commit. So it's going to process, perform code analysis. And so just watch out for that. Okay, so of course, you can actually review some of the warnings it's giving you. It will actually tell you 11 files. So if you click on review, you get to see the files that has issues and then you can fix that. But that's not what we're going to be doing now. So let's just commit this. So you can see 48 files committed, initial word commit. So now you've committed it to your repo, to your local. Now you need to push it online. Now remember, I've not even created any repository online. I've not gone to GitHub to create any repo. It's not necessary. You can do that from here. So I'm just going to now go to VCS, down to Git, and then to push. Then I'm going to push. So what do I want to push? Now you need to define a remote. So you need to actually, here you can actually just get your URL. Like I said, you need to be connected to. So this is if you want to if you have a URL, probably you have a, what do you call it? You've created a repo. So probably let me just run that type for us, for someone who actually has done that. Let me get a GitHub repo to push that to. I'm going to do that as fast as possible. So maybe I should just put that out here for us to see. Okay, so this would help other people. So you can just create a new repo. I'm going to call it dice roll. And well, it's actually available. You can make it public or private and then create the repository. And that is, it's been created. So I'll just copy this link. Okay, just click here and then it's copied, minimize. So this is you setting your remote location, and then you click OK, and then it checks it, and then it sees that it's fine, and then you can push, and that is basically that. So that's basically how you can do that. I think that should be how I can do that for now. So do we have any questions? So that is it. You have actually pushed your code to the repo. You can check that. Yeah, so if I refresh this, yes, I can actually see the files and everything. Okay, so lastly, this is also important because I noticed from the assignment, oh, I spelled my dash wrongly, apologies. Okay, so I told you include a video of your application on, as part of the, so that when you open the repo, you can actually see it. So this is where you actually do it. You can just click on the add readme, okay? And in this your readme file, you can just tell us, okay, file this is a dice roller app, okay? That is, so in this your readme, you can actually just include Okay, so maybe you want to create a README file, commit. Let's just commit that. Okay, so this is a dice roll app. You can edit this message. Okay, so attach files by dragging and dropping or pasting them. So you can just drag a file from your local and just paste it there. So for example, I want to drag, let's say I want to drag an image, one of the dice images. So I'll just drag, I can just drag it, or let me just pick up a picture. The dice image is so let's see. Can I pick up one of, let's pick a KodeCamp. Okay. Okay, so let me just drag this. So this is it. I'm dragging an image. So you just drag. So even if it's a video, you can also drag it, and then it uploads it. So that was what I meant when I said you guys should upload your videos. That's how you can actually do that. And then you commit the changes, or you can create a new branch, and then you see the image. If it's a video, it will play the video also. So subsequently, okay, always do this for the task that I'll be giving you. Okay, you can just upload a video in your README so that people get to see what your application does even before going into the code. Okay, so I'm going to be rounding this up here. Okay, someone is asking, push is actually pushing to the remote pull request to commit is when you stage. Okay, yes. Okay, so I can see you guys are having a very interesting conversation. Okay, so that's basically that for tonight. Okay, so if any questions before we call it a night? If there are no questions, you can just say no questions.
I just have one.
Hello, Emmanuel.
Yeah. Okay, I have one.
Okay.
About the video upload.
Okay.
So for instance, we used appetize.io the last time. So does it mean I would paste that URL as a video, or I don't get it.
Okay, so look down. When you look down here, let's do something. I can actually just delete this, but let me try to edit this file. Okay, so what do you say? Attach files by dragging and dropping, selecting or pasting. So I like to actually try things out. So whose appetize stuff do I have? That's double E, right? What app do I have of appetize? So let's try. I like to try things out. Whose app is this one? Okay, so this is someone's. Okay, so I just copied the link. So let's do that. I'm going to take out this. This is the image that we put before. So let's paste this now, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let's commit the changes and then let's see. So it just gives you is a link. So it just drops the link there. It doesn't load it. So that means you're not telling the person should start clicking on this and take you back to appetize. Okay, so you actually have to upload the actual file. Sorry about that. You have to upload the actual file. Okay, yes, upload the actual file. You have a video, it's a screen record basically. So it shouldn't be too large. The size shouldn't be too large. You can compress it as to the barest minimal and then upload it as a video, as an MP4, so people can actually see it. Okay, does that answer your question? Well, it does.
I also observed when if it's a YouTube link, for example, like the video I did, I used an app on my phone, uploaded to YouTube, and then dropped the link on the YouTube. It showed a thumbnail on this page.
Yeah,
that allows them to watch the video directly, but it doesn't show always, really.
Yeah, that's
sometimes because
Yes, if your video has a thumbnail, then it should show. It should show a thumbnail. But you know, it's just a thumbnail, it's not the actual full video. So it's best to just put the video directly. Okay, that's why I said drag. That's why I told you drag. Excuse me. Yeah, attach files by what dragging and dropping. Okay, so not really linked. If it actually wanted link, it could have actually said, but attach your file and you're dragging and was dropping. So I think that should answer your question. Any other question? Okay, so in the absence of none, as I'll always do, let me invite Engineer Nebet to just say one or two things before we round up. Engineer Nebet, please go ahead. Hello, Engineer Nebet, are you on the call? Are you with us?
Okay. I was actually in another call, but I was listening. So well done. I hope everybody has learned, because I think this is a very big jump from what you were doing last week. At least you have some people were asking how they will display the dice on the app. So at least you now have an idea of how you connect the logic at the back to what is displayed in front. So I hope we've all learned. It's a very huge leap. So take some time out to practice very well what you've learned today, because this is very fundamental. If you can understand everything that you've learned, I think you would have made a big step and you'll be able to do stuff on your own. So I want to thank IK, Samuel, and all the other mentors who have contributed to this class. Well done. If you have any other questions, you can keep asking. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Engineer Nebet. Okay, so I have my fellow mentor on the call, Mr. Samuel. Okay, so just give us a few words before we round up.
Good day, everyone. Sorry, I came late for the class. I had a meeting that I could not avoid. Okay, but one thing I would like to say is while learning, consistency is key to be able to. The difference between you and your tutor right now is consistency over time. Okay, so it's definite. If you can keep at what you're doing, keep learning every day. Okay, for the next 3-4 months, yes, it's guaranteed that yes, you would. Yeah, you may not be a senior developer, yes, but at least you should be a junior Android developer. Yes, you can actually get a job, and depending on the level of experience that the company needs, you can actually get a job with consistent growth every day from now to 3 to 4 months time. So just keep at it. Yeah. Before you know, 3 months is gone. Before you know, 4 months is gone. So if there's any thing you need to do, just take the sacrifice for this time, okay, to learn this thing. The time will come whereby you can now self-pace and learn on your own. But for this time, just take the sacrifice, do the assignments as I trained you, and then you will see maximum results. But I want to thank everyone. I want to appreciate everyone. You guys have been doing well. And these are people that have messaged, that have reached out to help in 1 or 2 things. You guys just got it once. It's not as if I said something and then I have to go back and forth. No, you guys got it once. So I really want to appreciate each and every one of you for amazing learners. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. Okay, so we'll be calling it a night. Your task for the week end will be dropped this night. Okay, so just watch out for it and make sure to submit. So just so you know, as was announced on the announcement channel, moving to stage 2 is going to take place on Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is going to be the deadline for submission of all tasks. So make sure you submit before the deadline, and then we'll get to grade you, and then we'll get to move the necessary persons to the next stage. So I hope to see you all in stage 2. We have a lot to do, and I would love to work with you all. So thank you very much for always being on the call. Okay, Judah, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to ask. Yes, I want to ask him. Has there been any other assignment from the last one, which was to do the birthday app? Because from messages I've been seeing on the channel, it's hinting like there was another assignment apart from that, and it's looking like I've missed out.
You in the last class?
Yes, I was in the last class.
What did we talk about in the last class?
Yes, I was wondering, you said that the assignments will drop on Thursdays, but I was seeing like, I think someone was working on that, something like that. So I was thinking maybe you dropped a link to the assignment, which I missed out. I searched through everything, I didn't see it.
Stage 1 channel, right?
Yes, I'm on it.
Yeah, the assignment was dropped there. Okay, so there was an assignment from the last class. Okay, so
The last one.
let me do something. Okay, so okay, Emmanuel the KHQ, the person that's So please, have you done the assignment for the previous class?
Yes.
Okay, so please just forward him the link. Okay, I'll just repost it on the stage 1 channel, please. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so okay, thank you guys. Have a nice night, okay? Thank you.
Good night.
Yes.